I remember the date because 14 people came in from DC, all high-ranking soldiers, and somebody drove up with an S-10 and they let off a rocket launcher and they killed all of the leadership. So I remember that day. And then I said to myself, I can't go home because if they knocking planes down at the air, how am I going to get home? And I'm also calming soldiers down. And I remember in my mind, I began to write poems with titles such as If I Die Tonight. One of my other poems said, the title was Ride on My Enemies Before They Circle Me Like Fleas. Think about where I was at. On one of these particular days, February 17th, I was shot at several times. I was going to check on one of those towers. And so I couldn't tell where the shots was coming from because we had a tall wall. And I had people in the tower looking, but there was a gunfight going down range one way. But I said, people are shooting from me from this other direction. I can't see them, but they can see me. So I had another colonel with me from Fort Hood, and they shot at his feet and he was going upstairs. So I rushed up to the tower, and I said, we got a sniper somewhere. Somebody please try to locate where the sniper was and let me get a report. So the next day I get up and I brief my unit. And I had 3 shifts. They worked, 8-hour shifts, 24-hour ops. And so I briefed the soldiers. I said, there's a sniper maybe in this range. I know there's another shooter might be assisting them. Do not mess with the ballistic glass or the camouflage. Okay? Just pay attention. Make sure you always wear your Kevlar, because sometimes the soldiers like to take their Kevlar off and they're bulletproof plates. Now, I don't know why they would do this, but they do. So I'm going to get my breakfast about 6:30, and one sound you never want to hear, man down, comes across my radio. I drop my food, I get into the Humvee, I drive to the tower, I run up the 35 stairs, I get in the tower, I see a guy down, but he done popped back up by now. He's shooting 50 cal. And there's a wall about as tall as Just Darn Good Food sign. He done tore the whole wall down. So I'm asking him, I said, okay, explain to me what happened. This other partner that was in the tower with him said, well, we've been looking for this sniper all day, for at least about 3 or 4 hours. Unfortunately, the sniper was looking at us the whole time. Okay? And this soldier was looking outside this ballistic glass. Ballistic glass was right here. All they do was stay right here. We had a little gap about this much, and he would take the camouflage and then look in the peephole. He would look in the peephole. One of those times when he looked in the peephole, he saw the muzzle flash. It flashes real quick. He had a calm enough to sense to just move just slightly, and the bullet hit the top of his Kevlar, went up in it, and came out the back. It was so powerful that it knocked him back over a chair. For the rest of the tour, this guy put a target on his Kevlar. So we get home in August, and we down at Camp Shelby in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And I said, something's wrong with this guy. So I tell mental health, because Guard is a little different. They have to check you out before you go back to society. You don't live among active duty brethren. So they say, yup, true enough, something's wrong with him. We're going to keep him. Well, when the soldiers found out he wasn't going home no time soon, all of a sudden he became well. And we took this soldier back home, right? In 1 week, he barricaded the house with his family in it. He shot at everything on the street. It took the act of Congress to get this guy out of that home. But those are things that happen, that is undetectable sometimes. On another instance, and I often check with my soldiers because I know that mental health is a big thing, and I compartmentalize things. So I had a soldier that was losing custody of her kids while she's at war. And she was a tough cookie. And so I go to check on her. We have events like Alcatraz. You do a roll call, you make sure you can find people. One of the worst things that can happen at war is to have stress going on back home. The stress of losing custody of her kids overwhelmed her. And by the time I realized she was missing from accountability, she had already committed suicide. In an unconventional way that women do. She used the M16. Suicides is still very high in the military, especially in the Army. When we returned in 2007, it was estimated that 50% of my unit had post-traumatic stress disorder. In over 365 days, we were involved in 100 plus events. That included IED, that included Humvees blowing up, that included a shooting at night, that included everything. Even to the day I left, there were people being bombed on the airfield as we were leaving. At that time, this 2007, I predicted the greatest challenge that we would ever face is dealing with mental health issues for veterans coming back home. We've been at war now for 14 years. Some soldiers have been on the battlefield 2, 3, and 4 times. Soldiers that normally would die at war from battle wounds are now coming back home. And the scars are embedded in their brain. It's not visible to the eye. These stories I'm telling you, they are deeply rooted. And whoever was impacted by those stories, those families, they feel it every day. They are injured, visibly invisible. Invisible. PTSD can occur after someone goes through traumatic events. It could be an assault. It could be a natural disaster, such as Hurricane Katrina. Since 2001, approximately 1.6 million U.S. troops have deployed. Early evidence suggests that the psychological toll of these deployments, many are involving prolonged exposure to combat-related stress, multiple times. These numbers don't even account for the impact of the families or the greater impact on society. Addressing PTSD, depression, and traumatic brain injuries among those deployed in Afghanistan and Iraq is a national priority. But it's not an easy undertaking. The prevalence of such wounds is high and may continue to grow as conflicts continue. And long-term negative consequences are associated with these conditions if they're not treated with evidence-based practical care. The system of care available need to be improved. We have had much success, but critical gaps still remain. And if you think I'm joking, I've called the VA 3 times in the last 2 weeks. It's on the phone 30 minutes and still can't get somebody to answer a basic question. And I haven't even talked about the issue with power of attorney. There have been families or soldiers that have went to war and came back home and their bank accounts were wiped out. Their belongings were put in storage for a burn. They ended up divorced at war, and the wife or the husband took the kids. I even had one friend, and he was an officer. His wife took $60,000, everything he made that year. She wiped out the bank account. So I tell you that because we must begin to have a better support system. Because when they come back home, these scenarios would render them homeless. There are multiple levels that we need to begin to address, not just the mental aspect. These are prideful veterans, and they won't tell you all the truths of war. In closing, happy Veterans Day, and let me not forget about those that are still fighting today. And I still have a friend, Mr. Ryan Irvin, Major Ryan Irvin, who's fighting in Afghanistan with a medical unit. We are the greatest nation on earth. We must ensure quality health care, including mental, is available. We need to make sure that we provide everything we can as a resource to the future veterans. As a group, veterans returning from Afghanistan and Iraq, they are predominantly young, healthy, and are productive members of society. However, about a third is currently affected with PTSD or some form of depression. We need to become the greatest generation. We need to live and allow them to live the life that they dream of. We need them to complete college, buy a car, buy a house, raise a family. After all, they have made the ultimate sacrifice, and I truly believe that we should too. Thank you.